Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday, August 18th. It's time to go on the record. Boston City Councilor Michelle Wu fighting to keep the T on the rails as her political prospects take off. What's next for this rising star?
The building pressure on gun safety reform and the election next year. We get reaction.
There's talk of a shakeup in the Senate. Could Joe Kennedy be taking aim at Ed Markey's Senate seat? Let's go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to OTR. It's great to have you with us on this Sunday in August. I'm Ed Harding. Janet Wu was off this week, but our guest this morning is Boston City Councilor Michelle Wu. She has served on the council since 2014, council president from 2016 to 2017, the first Asian American to serve on the council. She's a graduate of Harvard University and Harvard Law School. It is great to have you with us this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Can you believe we're halfway through August already?
It's gone by too fast.
And what did you just say to me? We're all of a sudden at the preliminaries on the horizon, and we're all looking at the next political steps, aren't we? The calendar never stops, does it?
Always an exciting political season.
And it's always an exciting place to live. You have not held back on your criticism of the MBTA. You fought against recent fare hikes. You even suggested that the T should be free. And obviously that's resonated with a lot of people. I've heard that a lot this past week, that very same thing. And this past week, we learned of an entire station shutdowns on weekends to speed repairs. What is your current take on the state of the T?
The bottom line is that public transportation really should be the solution to all of our region's biggest challenges: climate change and inequality and traffic. And yet the T and our transportation system generally is the cause of most of our stress now. It's what you plan your life around, when you go and from, when you come and go, what barriers might exist to you getting to where you need to be. And it doesn't have to be that way if we just got the political will together to fix the system. So these shutdowns now are extreme. And even if
But doesn't this system need an extreme correction? I mean,
oh, absolutely.
It is antiquated. It needs to be adjusted. It needs to be corrected.
But it's not an either or.
Okay.
So when we have an extreme fix, that we need to fix things quickly, there should also be alternatives that are sped up.
Yep.
We should have fare mitigation to take care of the stress that this is going to cause people. We should have emergency priority bus lanes so that people have an alternative when the T is broken. And we're not seeing any of that intermediate steps to address the pain and the struggle that people are experiencing while we're in this transition.
But there becomes a chicken or an egg. If there's fare reduction or if it's free, then where does the money come from to do what you have to do?
The fare increase only brought in a tiny bit into what the T needs. We are looking at a system that needs $8 to $10 billion just to get back to the state of good repair. And the fare increase is about $30 million. Just 1 penny on the gas tax per gallon would have immediately zeroed out the need for those fare hikes.
And just this week we saw new Orange Line trains. Is that just a little taste, a little tease, too small, too little, not enough?
They have not gone everywhere yet. I was on the Orange Line several times yesterday and still haven't gotten a chance. The pictures are up, but the trains have yet to be ubiquitous. But we're seeing small steps when we actually need a commitment to a big vision. How do we get to the system that people actually want to ride?
Sure. I would also like to talk about the methadone mile, because you've had strong words on the recent crackdown on that Boston so-called methadone mile. Boston police moving in earlier this month to clear the area near Boston Medical Center of people suffering from both drug addiction and homelessness. In fact, you tweeted that the image of a wheelchair in the trash truck, and I'm quoting here, represents a cruelty that government should try to stop, not carry out. So how should this have been handled? The methadone mile, and you showed a picture of the wheelchair being carried out.
We're at a crisis point in the opioid epidemic. Massachusetts, according to the most recent data, had twice the national average for the rate of deaths related to opioids. And the neighbors in the area has been feeling it around Mass Ave and Melania Cass Boulevard for years now. So the sudden response to a very serious incident of an officer being harmed just was not the right way to go about addressing the problem. To have a so-called sweep happen after dark several nights in a row. We need a coordinated response and a focus on keeping people at the table, public health agencies, public safety, the service providers and the advocates that are on the ground, residents of the neighborhood and in the area. that kind of collaboration needs to be sustained. And so it's not just one quick action after an incident, but an ongoing conversation about how we get to treatment for all.
You singled out the picture of the wheelchair being carted out in the end of a trash truck. The other side of that was the city claimed that the wheelchair was full of feces and drugs and dirty needles, and it was just a health hazard and simply had to be removed.
The picture came from advocates who were watching the sweep happen. And what we know is that there were several wheelchairs that were taken and crushed in the trash truck. And I don't know the situation of that particular chair, but some of them did belong to people who needed them in that moment. Now, I know the South End and neighboring areas have seen a proliferation of abandoned wheelchairs, but what should happen is an effort with Boston Medical Center to pick up their property and clean it up rather than just destroying what might be needed.
And what do you think about safe injection sites? I know it's federally illegal.
Yes.
Somerville Mayor Joe Curtatone
Yes.
says, you know what, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. He believes that it's something that would be helpful in the end. We're trying to save lives. What do you think
And
about
we had
it?
a state task force also recommend that Massachusetts move forward with this life-saving tool. The question will be, how do we do it in a way that, again, addresses not just those who are suffering and the treatment that is badly needed, but the impacts and quality of life for the surrounding area. So the issue of siting will be very important with that, but I think it's all hands on deck in every possible
So it's a proposal
tool.
that you'd consider.
Oh, absolutely. I think we need to save lives right now.
Next item I'd love to talk about it. The convictions of 2 Boston City Hall officials, the conspiracy to extort founders of the Boston Calling Music Festival, really caught Boston Mayor Marty Walsh off guard. For anyone in city government, this was a cautionary tale. What do you consider the lessons that have been learned from this?
You know, this is an area of the law that is changing, and it's clear that the federal prosecutors were trying to make an example out of labor unions in drawing new lines for what city business should involve. And it's important to have that clarity. It's important to follow the law. But we also have an obligation and a responsibility in City Hall to shape the laws so that we are protecting workers and families. There's a lot that we could do in terms of passing a wage theft ordinance, in terms of moving my proposed Fair Work Week ordinance that would give scheduling stability for workers. That's been stalled in talks with the administration, an ordinance on corporate tax break transparency. So that is the area that we can continue to push and should.
When you say Fair Work Week, F-A-I-R, fair?
F-A-I-R,
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
So what that means is that many workers, particularly as our economy moves more and more to part-time jobs, are juggling so many different parts of their lives. And when an employer says, actually, I'm changing your shifts for this week, don't come in this day, come in this other day, they have to rearrange childcare, medical appointments, etc. More and more cities are stepping up and saying we need to give workers a period of notice, 2 weeks, for example, after which they have say in their schedules.
So we've gone through a number of items which focus on the city. We've gone through the T, we've gone through methadone mile, we've talked about safe injection sites, talked about the repercussions from Boston Calling. It brings us to the 800-pound gorilla that's in the room. Your name is often mentioned as a possible candidate for mayor. Is this something you would like to be? Would you like to run for mayor? Are you considering a run for mayor?
You know, lots of political pundits are enjoying asking that question, and I think Massachusetts enjoys the sport of watching politicians answer that question. However, the real question that's on people's minds all throughout the city isn't about what might happen 2, 3, 4, 8 years down the line. It's about what are you going to do to fix the problems that we're facing today? Housing prices that are out of control, the opiate crisis, a transportation system that's crumbling. So we have a very active City Council election year this year, 15 candidates running at large, which is an amazing opportunity for the city to have a say in how our city government should work.
Would you run against Marty Walsh?
I think we need to focus on having the best possible conversation about what the city needs in the near term and in the immediate term. The candidates that are trying to represent the city and all of its neighborhoods today are bringing those solutions, and I hope everybody gears up, not just for 2020, but for 2019 too.
So if we like asking the questions, do you like hearing or answering the questions?
I will answer any question, but I wish that more of interview time were spent on the issues that really mattered to people. And we need to be fighting every day. We need to hold ourselves accountable. We need to be talking about those issues.
All right, we're going to take you to the OTR Pop Quiz. I'm not sure how
I wish
our
we didn't
lives
have
are
to do this. Could be used for issue time as well. This is
Very good. All right, it's time for the Pop Quiz, and you have 2 degrees from Harvard. So let's start with some Crimson trivia.
Okay.
Harvard Yard is one of the most iconic spots on campus. So take a look at the screen here. Which of the 3 buildings listed here is not a freshman dorm at Harvard Yard? Is it Holworthy Hall, Hadley Hall, or Hollis Hall? Which one is not a Harvard Yard dorm?
Hadley.
You got it. By the way, Hollis Hall housed some of the George Washington's troops during the American Revolution, but you nailed it.
It's been a while.
Question 2. You were a student of Elizabeth Warren at Harvard Law. You also worked on her first Senate campaign.
Yes.
Right now, the senator is the only tenured professor at the law school to have a law degree from a public university. So our question is, what university does the senator hold that law degree from? Is it Rutgers in New Jersey? Is it Wayne State in Michigan? Is it Penn State's Dickinson Law School in Pennsylvania?
Rutgers.
It is Rutgers. It is A. The answer is A. We'll be back with Michelle Wu and the OTR Pop Quiz and the rest of our conversation in just a minute.